Welcome to Suburban Warrior, the podcast that will impact, inspire, and empower you to transform your mindset and become the badass warrior that you are. I'm your host and fellow warrior, Crissy Pfeiffer, former clinician and corporate marketing exec turned multi-passionate entrepreneur, performance and life coach, and mom to 4 not-so-little warriors. Each week, I will bring you honest conversations with inspiring guests to share their stories of resilience, optimism, success, and simple yet effective strategies so that you transform your thoughts and change your behavior to get the results you want in your life. You will be empowered to take action, warrior up, and believe in you. Let's do this. What's up, warriors? Welcome back to another episode of the Suburban Warrior Podcast. I am your host, Crissy Pfeiffer. And I know I say this almost every week, but I have a very special episode to share with you today. I am so thrilled about my guest because she is here to share some real expert information on what really is a problem that is plaguing a lot of women and men, but we're going to talk specifically about women these days, and really women of all ages. And that's hair loss, whether it's thinning hair due to menopause, or it's hair loss due to cancer treatment and chemotherapy, or you name it, lots of other causes. But alopecia is a real epidemic. It's an issue that a lot of women are facing. And we're going to get down and dirty and talk about not only alopecia in general and how it affects us emotionally, but also how we can fix the problem. That's the most important. So I want to welcome my guest, MaryAnne DiDomizio. She is a founder and formerly of the MaryAnne Christopher Salon Spa, and now offers her services in a new setting at MaryAnne Studios, located at Salon d'Artiste, and that's here on the main line. She's dedicated exclusively to the care of men and women experiencing hair loss. MaryAnne holds the certification of Certified Hair Restoration Professional. She's also been recognized and certified by the American Cancer Society and the Governor's Office of the State of Pennsylvania. She is a renowned expert, community leader, and certified specialist. She's uniquely versed and experienced in working with wigs and hair pieces, including human and synthetic compositions. She's also the multiple year recipient of the Best of the Mainline designation awarded by Mainline Today magazine, and a successful entrepreneur with 30 plus year track record of executive and ownership positions with a multi-million-dollar revenue and staffs in excess of 200 professionals. Welcome to the podcast, MaryAnne.
Well, thank you for having me, Crissy.
Of course, I'm thrilled to have you here. And as our listeners will soon find out, you and I have a unique relationship, because I have been seeing you really for the last 4 months for my own hair loss journey, which I'm sure we'll get into. But first, let's hear about how you got into dealing with this problem, this, hair loss that affects men and women.
Well, at 17, I went to cosmetology school and became a hairstylist and worked many years in the profession. When I was in my 40s, my mother got ovarian cancer, and I needed to have a wig because she had chemotherapy and was losing her hair. At the time, there was not a whole lot of places to go or things to do for hair loss. And so I found a place that I wasn't very happy with. And I thought this could be better. We can make this better. Women need to feel dignity and need to feel confident when they're purchasing a hairpiece. So over many years, I worked with a company from Yaden, Pennsylvania, which sells wigs. And when I first started out, I would do 1 wig a month, work with women. And I started to work a year after I did this. I started to work with the American Cancer Society in a program called Look Good, Feel Better. That program was for women who were on cancer treatment. And it was sponsored by the American Cancer Society and the fragrance industry. They would give $350 worth of skincare and cosmetics to each person that came to the workshop. Workshops were 3 hours. They were held in hospitals in the area, and I did that for 25 years. In that journey, I realized that I needed to know more about hair and hair loss than just women on cancer treatment or women on that have serious alopecia. And I wanted to, because I love beautiful hair on people, I wanted to find out how I could help women or men, children, which I've worked with as well, have their own hair and have beautiful hair. So I went back to get more education. I'm certified as a trichologist, which is the study of hair. I work with some dermatologists with women who have alopecia, different types of alopecia. So my first go-to in my business is to help women have their own healthy hair. And I do that by working with only products that I sell that could help grow hair to be healthier. That consists of vitamins, shampoos, conditioners, and also laser hair growth.
Okay. So we'll definitely get into all of those options that you just mentioned, but I think it's funny because I think, at least growing up for myself, and I think a lot of people, like, we see bald men and we don't really sometimes think twice about it. Now, I know that's probably not for all men, but when we think of alopecia, I think a lot of times we think men who, it's hereditary, they lose their hair, and that's just what's happening. I don't think as many people realize that it is a condition that affects so many women, so many healthy women, men and women as well, but like healthy men and women that, there's not always a very clear medical cause for it, Okay. So regardless, so you've been in this industry doing this for how many years now? A long time, I know.
Yeah. Maybe
like over 30 years.
More than 30 years. More than 30 years. I started when I was 17 and I worked with hair for all those years. One of the good things about what I do is I know women go to dermatologists or their hairstylist when they first start shedding their hair or losing their hair. And that is a good thing to do. However, most hairstylists are not educated in hair loss. They're into all the things you do to make your hair pretty. So I work specifically in the last 35 years with hair loss.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. So first of all, I know my listeners can't see you, but you've been in this industry for so long. So I asked that question because I'm curious if, you have seen an uptake or a difference in the amount of women that you see come in for hair loss.
Yes, absolutely. I have seen that. I think that, several things. One is I don't think people concentrated on hair loss the way women do today. I think we're more educated, more social media, also TV, more advertising about it. It's a little bit more discussed than it used to be years back. My early years of doing this, I had a woman who was a prison guard who had alopecia and had 3 children and a husband. And never did they know that she didn't have hair. When she would come to the salon with her children, I'd have to cover the door, lock her in the room, and do her wig. And then she would go out and then nobody ever knew. So I think, to answer your question, I think we talk about it more. And I think that's good because people are a little more comfortable about discussing it with their hairstylist. And a lot of stylists now look at their clients and say, oh, you're losing some hair. I think they feel freer to say that.
Right. There's more options available. I think you're right. I think, like everything else, it's becoming more of an acceptable discussion to have, but it is still, I can just speak for myself. Like, it's still really hard to talk about because it's something that's so personal. It's such a part of your identity. So when you start to lose your hair and you don't feel like yourself, it really plays such an emotional toll on you, because you want to problem solve and you want to fix it. But at the same time, as you know very well, it is not a quick fix, unless you put a wig on. But in order to restore your own hair, it's this long journey. Okay. So tell me about when you first see a patient, or I should say like a client, when you first see a client, they're coming to you because they have, I'm assuming most of the time, thinning hair or I mean, or maybe total hair loss. But what is the first thing you do with them?
Well, the first thing we do is consultation and discuss their health background, because as you know, it could be hormonal, it could be vitamins, it could be diet, it could be anxiety, stress. So I have a consultation with the client, and then there are things to do that I can help them with. My first go-to is not to say, let's do a wig or a hairpiece. That being said, I do that. I have all of that. But my first go-to, because I like beautiful hair and healthy hair, is to try to work with them with their products that they use and how to use them, their vitamins that they can take now that are on the market, which are great, very successful, and also laser hair growth, which is not harmful and very effective for hair thickening, for hair health, and for hair growth.
Okay. And so I guess when you determine whether or not they need a wig, is it based on how much hair loss they have?
Yes, actually, it's based on that. However, it's a very intimate conversation between myself and the client.
Yeah.
Whether they're ready for that. They have to be ready to wear a wig, because if they have very thin, fine hair and you put something on it that's going to prevent it from getting the oxygen it needs to grow, and also wears on the hair, you can cause traction alopecia, which is another issue because their hair is so fragile. Right. So my goal is always to get the hair thicker and fuller. If we don't reach that as we want to, then we can talk about purchasing a wig, because they want to look different than they look because of what they're doing. But It takes a lot of patience and a lot of time to regrow your hair,
right?
To have healthy hair.
And to follow and to be consistent in following the regimen, right?
You have to be diligent. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it's, it costs money to do it, and it also costs time. You have to have the time to do it, and you have to be very diligent. I try to stress that a lot when I'm talking to them in their consultation. If they do it, it works. In my profession, in the last 40 years, I've only had one client who did not follow the regimen and did not have success.
Yeah.
Everybody in all ages has had success.
Well, that's wonderful news to hear. And I would imagine that's because, it is something that listen, like I said, it's outward. It's part of your identity. It's hair. So I feel like people would be more likely to follow a set regimen that is set, that is going to be successful than not, if that's the way to grow your hair back.
Yeah. So it's very disheartening for women as well as men. I've worked with men who the same, feelings about losing their hair.
Sure.
But when you're a little girl, speaking to women, the thing that your mom does is she braids your hair, she puts ponytails in your hair, she puts bows and barrettes. So your hair becomes something that you value as you're growing up, and to see it in the shower or see it in your hairbrush, it's very upsetting.
It is. And let's talk about that a little bit, because obviously there's a normal rate of shedding hair, right? We've all seen that. Then we go through stages as women. We have babies after birth. We shed a lot of hair. Then comes lovely menopause, and our hair starts to thin a little bit. And then, and there's some shedding, but it's really what we're talking about is the abnormal amount of shedding, right? When you really start to see clumps of hair coming out, right? I mean, so
yes.
And I'm talking about that because I'd love for you to tell us, when do you think people should start seeking treatment beyond maybe just taking a vitamin?
Well, I think the first thing you start to see while you're seeing that, if you can be a little bit more educated in what you're looking at, you begin to see your hair become limp. It really won't do anything. It's just there. It's not, it doesn't do anything. It's just limp. And so I think that's the first sign that you should think, well, there's something wrong. My hair is different. or it's very frizzy, or it's very dry. It's not getting the vitamins that it needs. It's not healthy hair. Healthy hair is shiny and thick and healthy. When I say thick, it doesn't have to be thick hair. It's a lot of fine hair. Most people have a lot of fine hair. Not everybody has thick, coarse hair.
Right.
But I think the first thing is that you would see is that all of a sudden my hair is limp and I'm seeing it, in my brush. I would definitely go right away to someone, because there is help if we get it early enough.
Yeah. And I wish that I was listening to this podcast
Yeah.
like late last summer because as you were talking about that, I mean, that's exactly how my hair felt. It wasn't like it was falling out in clumps yet, but the texture of my hair, it's like it changed overnight. All of a sudden, it like wasn't styling right. It felt different to me. It was coarser. And like I'm down the shore. So I was like, oh, I guess it's the salt air. Then I thought, well, maybe it's menopause, because I blame everything on that. But I mean, and then once the fall hit and it started to just literally fall out of my head and at an alarming rate. But had I known, even when it started falling out, had I known that a service like yours existed, I just kept thinking it's going to be okay. It's going to come back. And then I got to the point of no return, and it was thankfully I eventually found you and started treatment. But I wish I would have found you a few months earlier, because I feel like I would have caught it, so much easier. So
Absolutely.
That's the thing. If you start to feel your texture changing or it coming out, it's time to really seek out some type of treatment.
Well, the thing is, they don't know where to go.
Right.
Like the first place you go that we talk about is your hairstylist. And you're like, well, how, do you think my hair's thinner than it was? Well, they only have your hair for 35 or 40 minutes. They don't really live with it on a daily basis until they start to see it's so thin that they're like, well, your hair is thinner now. So I think what I hope for, one, in the podcast is to educate people, but two, to let them know that there is some place to go. Like, you can get help. There is somewhere to go.
Yeah,
and I think if you knew that, I think, Crissy, you met me through a hairstylist that knew me.
Yeah.
But, not all hairstylists know me. So I think, I'm so grateful for you to do the podcast, because I think people just have to know there's somewhere to go. And
there's somewhere to go.
You can be 17, you can be 19, you can be in your 40s, menopause 50, but this affects people of all ages because of the fact that your body sometimes attacks your hair follicles, and it's your immune system. So, there's no cure for these things. This is not a cure. This is us staying ahead of what is happening in your body and with your hair.
Yeah. And to your point, it does affect people of all ages. I know right before the podcast, you were talking about, that you had a young client that, you were working with. And so I'm sure you have so many stories of people from old to young. I mean, are you seeing, when people come into you, I know you talk about the cause, but are you seeing a rise in hair loss because of certain things that are going on? I mean,
yes,
more stress,
absolutely.
And
more
what do you think
stress,
that is?
Diets, more stress, diets. Your hair needs protein to grow. And so, not that a vegetarian diet or a vegan diet is a bad diet. It's a good diet if you get enough protein from the foods that you can eat. But I have seen many young girls who, once they realize that they have to eat more protein, they see a difference in their hair. Yeah. So, and there's a lot more stress in the world today. We're going through a pandemic. The pandemic, COVID, one of the side effects that I have read could cause hair shedding or hair loss after you have COVID. So there's so many things today, but there are things to help combat that and help it to grow.
Right. And I think the message there is, there's so many things that could be causing the hair loss, but it's really the same treatment no matter what. I mean, obviously you want to have more protein in your diet, and it could be COVID, the vaccine, or any virus really that causes you to shed your hair. It could be hormones, like you said, like so many things, but the bottom line is the treatment is still the same.
Yes. And I
Yeah.
think over the last probably, let me say 30 to 35 years, I have seen that the medical profession knows more about the immune system than we used to talk about in prior years. However, there is not much to do for it. Like,
Right.
even other diseases like MS or Lyme's disease, it affects the immune system and it affects your hair. And so we have to, kind of work with them. I try to work with them to help stay ahead of the issues and help the hair to stay healthy and grow. Yeah.
And grow. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so what do you see as like the emotional toll that the hair loss has on your clients?
Well, so when I was young, women used to say, you can put a beautiful dress on, but if your hair doesn't look good, you don't feel good. And you
Right.
don't. You
Yeah.
really don't. Yeah. I mean,
Oh, I know.
it's I mean, people,
Oh, I know.
women look at their hair and they just want it to look healthy and be healthy, but they, most times you don't know what to do to get there.
Yeah. Yeah. And then I feel like that affects so many different areas of our lives, right? Because it's not just about, it's just, it's your identity. So it's like, dressing up. You don't want to dress up. You don't want to go out to the store. You don't want to. And then there's like a lot like, do I put on a hat? Do I not put on a hat? Is the hat going to make it worse? Like,
or what you do a lot of times is tie it back.
Yes.
And that is not one of the good things to do because of the fact that it's fragile.
Right.
So anything you're doing to it that's causing stress is making it worse. And you don't realize that. You just don't want to see it not look healthy.
Right. Right. Yeah. Well, that's been my go-to strategy for the last 5 or 6 months because I don't think I could leave the house if not. But that's all right. You know what? It's one day at a time and it's getting through. And
you have been super diligent. I mean, you follow it to a T. You don't miss an appointment. You just really follow it to a T.
No, I'm very good at taking direction, MaryAnne.
Good. You're teachable, right?
I am very teachable. And I also really want my hair back, and I know. So let's talk about that. Another thing is, from the first day I saw you, you said, it's going to be a year. It's a year process. And to someone who's like in crisis, that's a long time, to hear like, oh my gosh, a year before this gets better. And I'm only, I think, 5 months in. And so, anytime I start getting frustrated or I look at myself in the mirror and I have not very nice things to say, which we all do, but I try my best to keep it in check. I remind myself that it's a year and that I try to, see it from the other perspective that, things could always be worse and we'll get through today and the year will be here down before I know it. And so,
and the other thing, Crissy, I think is as you are going through this journey, you are seeing a difference.
Oh, absolutely.
You are seeing a difference. And that gives you a little bit of encouragement to keep on going on,
Yes.
And at the end of this year, this is not a cure. We're not going to say, Crissy, we'll never see you again, or you can stop using the vitamins, or you can stop using the hair products, or you don't have to do the laser anymore. We don't know that answer. We only know that as we go through the journey. And when the journey's over in a year, if we need to do once a month, we'll do once a month. You will be the advocate for yourself to say, well, I'm shedding a little more than I was. I'm going to come back for a few more treatments. And so we work together with that. And I think that's the big thing, Crissy, is having somebody to talk to.
Yeah.
That can understand what you're going through and maybe how to correct it in most cases. I mean, I've had 82, 83-year-old women who have had success with it.
Yeah, but I know you've seen everything, right? You've seen young, old. I mean, and that's devastating, right? As a young girl or young man, late teens, early 20s and losing their hair. That's a terrible time.
I just had a young man, 24 years old, who called me, happens to work with my granddaughter, and he had COVID and he's losing some of his hair, and he's going to, do the whole process. So, I think just having somebody, he happened to say to my granddaughter, I had COVID and I'm losing my hair. Well, she
Yeah.
happens to be my granddaughter, so she knew where to
Aw.
send them. But, that's the big part of this is why I'm so grateful, Crissy, that I met you and that we could do this, because people just don't know where to go.
They don't know where to
And
go.
that's sad.
It is. I didn't. And I consider myself pretty like a seeker of information. But I think the reason I waited so long, I mean, looking back, I'm just going to say it's probably because I was in denial. I was 100% like, this is not happening to me. This can't happen to me. Why would this happen to me? Like, I'm not going to lose my hair. And I just thought it would stop. And just as I woke up and it felt so terrible one day, I was convinced I was going to wake up and it was going to be better the next day. And every day went on and it didn't. And so I just, I wish that I wasn't in denial and that I was a little bit more diligent in seeking out some type of treatment, but I really didn't know. So do I go to a dermatologist? Do I go to my hairdresser? Like, I really had no idea who to turn to about it. So I wish I would have, but I didn't. So I hope that anyone who's listening to this now that might be experiencing any type of hair loss or thinning, listen, can't hurt to get a consultation, right?
And it's free.
Yeah. And it's free. And when you do your consultation, you're not just like looking at the hair and feeling it, which I know you do, but you're looking at the follicles under that, whatever that apparatus is.
It's called a scope, and it magnifies inside your scalp to 400. And we can see the follicles. We can see where, and you saw that. You saw where your hair was thinning. And what happens in that thinning process is these thinning hairs are called vellus hairs. They get no nourishment. They're not, having anything from the follicle, and they eventually fall out. And that's when you see the shedding. But by the time you start to see that in a way that you're going to say, wow, I'm losing my hair. You're right. If you would have done it 6 months earlier, or 3 months earlier, we would have been ahead of the game. But you're doing it and we're seeing success, and, you still have another, 7 months to go or 6 months to go. And, I think it's wonderful that you want to share this with your followers, because it does work.
I'm only sharing it because of you, MaryAnne.
Oh, well, thank you.
I'm just kidding. I pretty much am an open book, but I have to say, like, another reason why I'm sharing it is because I am pretty open, especially with people that I've talked to or I'm close to, my friends. I'm pretty open with who I am, what I am, whatever. And so, but the more, since I've been experiencing this, the more that I talk to people in conversations, friends, acquaintances, clients, like you name it, like other women. And the more I talk to them, the more I'm realizing just how many people have either been through it themselves. And I saw them through it, and I never realized they were losing their hair. So it gives me hope that people don't realize I'm losing my hair. But anyway, there's so many people that it's affecting. It's affecting people that I talk to, or they know someone who's been through it. And so I really do feel like this is something that I don't know if it's my age that I'm at, or if it's now that it's happening to me, I'm finding more and more about it. But for me, it feels like it's a much more prevalent thing. So I would want someone in my shoes who might be experiencing it to go before I went, to get help before I did, to understand that there is options out there for you, and you don't have to wait until it's too late. Because I really feel like if I waited another month, it would have been disastrous. And it already was pretty bad. I'm not going to lie, but it could have been disastrous for me had I waited another month. So I don't want that to happen to other people. And there are options out there, and there's other studios. And, like you said, I think before we started recording, you mentioned there's like an alopecia society where they have resources. You could call them. That's how some of your patients find you.
Yes.
You're local on the main line. You're right in Wayne is where your business is, but there are other places if you're not local. But the key is to seek out treatment, because, no one wants to have to get to the point where you're wearing a wig. And if you do, because of chemotherapy or something like that, sure, that's a wonderful option. But, if it's something that you're not sure what the root cause of it is, and all of a sudden you start losing your hair, that's the time to see you.
Yeah. And I think once you have someone to talk to, it's almost like, okay, now it becomes my issue to help you, so that you can relax and know that somebody's doing something to help you. It's the same as, and I don't want to compare myself to the medical profession, but it's the same when you go to your doctor and you're sick and he gives you medicine. You feel, okay, I can handle this. I have the medicine. I'm going to get better.
Of course, of course.
See a difference. Yeah.
Yes.
So
yes, because
I think that's a big thing. And I think the other thing is, once you go through what you went through, Crissy, when you are out and about the supermarket or wherever you are, and you see people with limp hair or very stringy ponytails, you think to yourself, wow, their hair needs some help.
Okay. So MaryAnne, can you see people that need help with their hair?
Absolutely.
Yeah, you can.
That's why when I go to church, I don't sit in the back row, because then I concentrate on the hair instead of on the mess. So I sit in the front row now so that I can concentrate. Yes.
Oh my God, I love that.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So you know what's so funny? When I go to the grocery store, I'm so self-conscious about my own hair now.
Yeah.
And I just don't even look at anybody. I'm just buzzing through, please don't let anybody notice me. Yeah. But that is really interesting that you mentioned that now that you can spot people that actually need help with their hair.
Yes. Well, I think it happens in everything in your life, but you don't realize it. Like if you buy a car and you buy, I'll just say a BMW in black.
Totally.
So all of a sudden you see all these black BMWs that you never saw before, all of these black or white Chevys that you never saw before. So I think once you become aware, wow, this is what I'm going through and I'm getting help, then you see other people that are going through it and think, wow, they could get help as well.
Absolutely. Okay. So one more thing I want to touch on, because I know that everything that you do, it's it's like a whole treatment plan, right? There's multiple things that you do to help people to establish their hair back, to grow their hair, to have fuller hair, to get back to normal. But I have to say for my own self, I love everything that I'm using. I think everything, all the products, the treatment plan, the vitamins, everything I think is helping. But is there one thing within your plan that you think is the thing to do that really helps the most? Or do you really think it's just a combination of all of it?
It is a system, and it is a combination of all of it. However, the laser hair growth, what the laser does is the laser brings fresh blood up to the surface, feeds the follicles, and helps the hair to grow in a healthier way. So with the topicals that you use, the laser is helping. With the vitamins that you're using, the laser is helping. So I think that the laser hair treatments are imperative. I mean, if you do that. Now, I do have clients who don't do it. They do get results, but I think the most results that I get are with the system of everything that we do, the products, the vitamins, the hair styling products that are for hair growth, like your leave-in conditioner or your foam or your gel. I think with that and the laser, I think that it is a big help. Now, some people can't, most times men and some women who are very busy can't come in twice a week, which is the beginning of your start with it. At the end of the year, they do sell, or I do sell, helmets that you can use at home. However, in the salon, it's much better to do the whole head in the beginning, like that first year.
And don't you think, I don't know if it's just a result of all the blood coming to the scalp, but the laser also significantly helps to stop the shedding, correct?
Absolutely. Yeah, because it's bringing that blood up. And so the treatment, some of the treatment is that you use minoxidil. So what minoxidil does is it pushes the resting stage that your hair is in, or the fallout stage, the shedding stage. It pushes that into a growth stage. So it pushes it into the growth stage, and then the laser with the new blood flow helps it to grow.
Yeah.
That's what
Yeah.
happens.
That was, I saw, that was the first change that I saw, like literally like after the first week of using the laser, I saw a major significant change in the shedding of my hair, which is obviously the first step, because in order for it to look fuller, you need it to stop falling out.
Stop shedding, right. And in order for it to be thicker, fuller, and healthier, we need to get that new hair up and out of the scalp. And that's what all those things do.
Yeah. Well, MaryAnne, thank you so much for joining me on the podcast today. It was, like I said, I would really only share this story and in this much detail with you. But, you know, my journey with you has been so fantastic. It's only been about 5 months, but you have helped me not only to look better and get my hair starting to be back to normal, but you have made it easy, and I feel safe, and I know that I'm well taken care of. So I've been thrilled to work with you, and I am really happy to get this message out. Not only your services, but like I said, anyone who isn't local, who might need to find a specialist in their area, they should stop hesitating, don't think twice, and do so as quick as possible.
Yeah, Crissy, I've had clients who, I do a client who lives in Wayne, and she has a sister that lives in North Carolina. And I'll do that consultation over the phone and start them. But then through my distributors, I can find other places for them to go for laser treatments if they need to do that.
Okay.
If they're willing to do that. But I can't express how grateful I am to you, Crissy. One, that I met you, and two, that we're doing good with your hair. But really, that you were willing to do this and share it with so many people, because
of course.
I think hair issues and hair loss are a big thing right now. And I think people need so much help.
They do. They really do. Yeah. So what is the best possible way for people to find you or reach you?
Okay, so I have a website. It's MaryAnne, MaryAnne at lovemyhairagain.com, or my phone number, which is 610-687-5700.
And is your website Love My Hair Again?
Love My Hair Again.
Yes. Okay.
Yes.
Great. Mm-hmm. All right.
Crissy, are you saying that yet? Are you saying Love My Hair Again yet?
Not yet. But you know what? No, that's actually not true. To be honest with you, I do say it and I say every single day that I'm grateful for every hair on my head.
And I think one of the things that happens as well, and I didn't mention this, is once you get the consultation and have the system that you can work with, you begin to take care of your hair.
Yeah.
You really focus on giving it the time and attention that it needs. I think that's a big thing too.
You do. And I have curly hair. So I've always been, and my sister is a hairdresser. So I grew up, and I've always have used really good products on my hair. And I've always taken really good care of my hair, basically because if I don't, it looks absolutely insane. So I was always really good with my hair, but then it fell out. And so, I've learned, I literally am grateful for every hair on my head. I do love my hair. I will love it more when it's even better. But, like I said, I think things could always be worse. And I'm grateful I found you. I'm grateful that I'm in process, and I'll take it.
I'm grateful I found you as well.
Oh, thank you, MaryAnne.
And I think that we have a journey we're on. And I know that at the end of the journey, you're going to be, so happy with the difference in your hair. And we stopped the shedding, and that's a big thing.
I have no doubt. I think it's going to be even better than before.
Okay, good. I'll go for that.
Yes, exactly. Well, thank you so much, MaryAnne. Guys, if you are experiencing any of the symptoms or things we talked about today, please feel free to reach out to MaryAnne. I can speak from experience. She is awesome. She is knowledgeable, and she is a true professional and expert. So thank you so much for joining us on the podcast today. I will be back next week with another amazing warrior story for you. Talk to you guys next week.